Greetings, everybody, and welcome to our circle chat today. I am Abby Lee, and if I haven't had the pleasure of meeting you, I'm super, super excited that you're here. I have a very special guest today. She is not only a dear friend of mine, but somebody who I am extremely inspired by. We have been in the flow arts world, and our hoop dance teaching journeys have kind of coincided for a very long time. In my opinion, I consider her the master of all things flow. She's my go-to expert when I talk about movement meditation as it relates to flow arts and really tapping into that transcendent space, a state of being. So we're going to really dive deep into what flow means. This woman has done her thesis on this particular subject. She holds a master's degree from Nairobi University in contemporary education, and she is somebody I love dearly. So without further ado, here is Casandra Tanenbaum.
Yay!
Hi. Hi, Cass.
Hi, Abby.
I forgot to mention, she is also the Hoola-Fit co-creator. So without her, Hoola-Fit wouldn't even exist. So this is Casandra, and I'm going to actually let you introduce yourself in your own words. And just let us know a little bit about how flow arts entered your life and why you're so passionate about it.
Awesome. All right, great. Well, hi, everybody. I'm Casandra. I am a artist, educator, and entrepreneur. That's the short version. I have like 8 different bios. So like I have a mini teeny baby version, and that's it. I'm an artist, educator, and entrepreneur. I have been working as an educator, particularly in arts education, since I was a teenager. So it has always been something that I adore, not just working as an artist and creating art and producing art, but also empowering others to also produce art. It's very important to me. So I would say that those 3 monikers or roles have guided every single thing that I've done up until this point. I'm not looking to add on anything, but I am the founder of Flow Fests, which are multi-day circus arts workshop festivals that happen in urban parks in major cities across the US. And this is our 10th year of running Flow Fests. I'm super excited about it, and honestly did not expect to be here 10 years on and running flow arts festivals around the country. I'm also professionally the cultural arts coordinator for Boys and Girls Clubs of Palm Beach County. So I'm in charge of all of the arts programming for all 13 of our Boys and Girls Clubs. We serve 9,000 kids a year, and they span the entire county of Palm Beach County, Florida. So I'm constantly in my car driving around delivering art supplies. In addition to the work that I do in the flow arts realm, I'm also a professional spoken word artist. I am also a graphic designer and a digital imaging expert. And so that's a bit about me and what I do. I love to hoop, though. I'm all about the hoop. First love.
You do it all, girl. You inspire me, and I want to talk definitely about like how you manage to juggle that kind of a workload, because it's insane the amount of productivity that you have. It's incredible. Your energy and how you show up and what you produce in the world is really inspiring. But before we dive deep, because I know how when you and I start talking, we can really geek out on the subjects that we start discussing. It's true. And we're going to talk a lot about flow and that meditative space. But first, can you just do us a favor and like make the distinction between like the word flow? It can mean a couple different things. Can we kind of define what is flow?
Yes, actually, oh my God. Don't be annoyed. I'm going to grab something.
Okay, I'm not annoyed.
It may not show up very well, but whatever. I'm going to read it anyway. Okay. I have my own definition of flow. But basically, we use the word flow often, a lot, when we're talking about movement. And particularly as hoopers, when, we discuss the sequence of a series of movements. That is something that we would call a flow. That is something that's distinct from the feeling that we get when we're in the zone, which we also call flow. So we talk also about the flow of a class, right? As hoop dance teachers, we're constantly...
So that's like 3 different definitions so far.
Yeah, absolutely. So flow can be described as a sequence of movements in a choreography, right? The flow of the dance is that sequence, okay? First, I'm going to do a weave, and then I'm going to jump through my weave, and then I'm going to hover my hoop on a horizontal plane, toss it in the air, catch it, bring it to my knees, and, accept all of the applause of the crowd. Yes, that's my hoop dance flow.
And that's the sequence definition.
30 seconds. Yeah, the sequence definition. Then there's like the flow of the class. Similar in that it's describing the sequence, but also we're getting into a little bit of the feeling of the word flow, because you can feel how the class is flowing as a teacher.
For sure.
And you set it up so that as educators, and this is what educators do, educational practice involves being able to cultivate a feeling of maybe starting with a very baseline understanding of a topic or a concept, and then being guided by an instructor or by a lecturer into a more profound understanding of that topic. That's like educational flow, right? The flow of a class. So as hoop dance educators, we are crafting an experience for our students, and that's what the flow of the class is. It's that experience. So it's not just the sequence. Well, first we're going to warm up, and then we're going to, do this drill, and then we're going to play this game. Yes, it's that, but it's also the feeling that I'll have as an educator and my students will have in going through that sequence. Okay. Yeah. So the second definition of flow is like teaching flow. Okay. The third definition of flow is flow as a state of being. And the concept of flow as a state of being, a sense of being in the zone, operating at optimal experience, optimal effectiveness and efficiency, being so deeply engaged in the moment and focused on the activity that you are engaged in that everything else disappears. Time, space, all of it. And it's almost an experience of being undifferentiated from the thing, the idea, the movement. So the you as ego you kind of disappears in the flow state. And that state of consciousness is something that has been explored in the positive psychology movement, particularly for, I'd say, probably the last 40 years, basically my entire life. It got very interesting when I was born. And a bunch of brilliant minds have been studying flow, particularly within the last 20 years. After Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, that brilliant scientist from the University of Chicago who wrote Flow, the book, the preeminent book on flow. Ever since then, different theorists have been unpacking the research around flow, engaging in what differentiates the flow state from any other state of consciousness. What are the primary characteristics of that flow state? So I have my own definition of the flow state, and that's what I got.
Real quick, before you share that, I just want to also mention that this isn't specific to like hooping, flow arts. This could be writers experience it, musicians. I mean, anybody.
Okay, yeah. So yes, okay, sorry, yes. All right. Flow is way bigger. The flow state can be accessed in almost any activity wherein you are an engaged participant in the activity. Right. So that's one of the key components. Watching a movie, even if like you've got all of the cushions and the popcorn and the sensory experience, and you're very much enjoying the experience, that's more of a pleasurable activity. So things that we engage in simply for the pleasure of them, like eating a 5-course, super rich, delicious meal, or watching a movie in a private movie theater where you're having a pedicure at the same time. Those are pleasurable activities. They don't require your absolute focused engagement. Activities that do require your absolute focused engagement, like you are the player in the scene. So acting, dancing,
Writing,
singing, playing a musical instrument, playing tennis, running, gardening even. And there are tons and tons of both anecdotal and statistical research behind
visual art.
The vast number of activities that one can engage in the flow state with. It just so happens, this is not a plug, but it just so happens that what we do as play professionals when we're manipulating a prop is one of the most rewarding and easily flowable activities out there. Because if you're not paying attention, it's not going to be as fun as it is when you are paying attention. So there's that intrinsic motivation that comes from how fun it is to whirl this hoop, and even how fun it can be to like practice this one maneuver over and over and over and over and over again until I got it. That's actually fun most of the time with hooping, you know, or with juggling. And so it's because the flow state is so, it's like right there for the taking with these particular activities. It's so easy to access and it's so long lasting with these activities that we call them flow arts. That's where the name flow arts came from. All right. So can I show you my thing?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm sure it's backwards on the screen. Sorry. But this is the definition that I wrote. It says, flow, an exhilarating, transcendent way of being. An exhilarating, transcendent way of being in which effortless control and peak skill seem to erase a sense of time. I suck at reading things backwards. Flow, an exhilarating, transcendent way of being in which effortless control and peak skill seem to erase a sense of time. So that's my definition of the flow state. And I use it all the time. And I was super keen on exploring the flow state and unpacking the flow state, particularly when I was going for my master's in contemplative education from Naropa. So contemplative education is really like mindfulness education.
I said contemporary earlier.
Yeah, no, it's okay. It's way easier to pronounce contemporary than contemplative. Just so, and I would much. Oh, I don't know if I would say this. Maybe just for you guys, I might prefer to have a master's degree in contemporary education at this point. But
that's what I've been telling everybody. That's the rumor I created.
I love it. Let's make it real. I love it. I'm going to get out my Sharpie and my diploma. We're just going to do a little editing, you know.
Okay, so clearly you're an expert when it comes to this. Can you turn your volume down a little bit too? I'm getting feedback. Okay, Thank you so much. I appreciate it. So much better. Okay, good. I was hearing myself. All right. So where did your passion for diving deep into studying flow come from? Like, why did you decide to embark on that path with your education?
Why does destiny find us? Why is the sky blue? I don't know. Oh God. I fell in love with the flow state.
Well, tell us your backstory.
Like, this is the most important experience I've ever had in my life. That's why.
How did you start? Like, was the group give us the backstory. How you found
Here's the backstory.
All right.
I was an undergrad at a really awesome public liberal arts honors college in Florida. Let's keep it public and let's keep it independent. New College of Florida. Call your senators, your Florida state senators, and tell them it's important to keep New College independent to support independent thought. Okay. There's something happening right now in Tallahassee. Anyway, I was a student at New College. I was a history student at New College, and I was also taking some philosophy, particularly I took an incredible class on embodiment. phenomenology, and it was extraordinary. And the instructor was a dancer. She had been on the like professional ballerina track until she was injured in a car accident at 16, ended up going to Harvard and getting a PhD in philosophy instead. She was this professor for this class, and she said to us at the beginning of the class, she said, your final projects better be extraordinary because I'm giving birth to another human being for my final project, an embodiment. And we were like, oh my God. Anyway, so I took this class, and at the end of this class, we had a big campus party. Somebody had brought out hula hoops. And I was like, oh my God, I have to grab this hoop and show everybody this one trick that I used to do when I was 8 years old. I was just killing it. I wonder if I can still do it. And I could. And the trick was being able to control the hoop at my waist, shimmy it up to my neck, and then shimmy it back down again. Okay. So like I had some skills, but I also absolutely fell in love with just playing with this piece of plastic at this college party and wouldn't let anybody else use it for hours. And right there and right then I said, I'm going to be a hula hoop performer in Mallory Square, Key West. I'm going to do this. I had been working a lot in dance also when I was in undergrad. So I signed up for a bunch of time in the fitness studio, in the dance room, in the fitness studio, and I devoted myself to choreography. And then I had a really traumatic experience, and I said, oh my God, I don't want to appear sexy anywhere, not even in the privacy of my own home. So I put my hoops away. I gave them away, and I moved away. And I dropped out of school, came back for one semester, dropped out again. And then 3 years later, 3 years later, 4 years later, I was driving by a park and I saw this lady in the middle of the field of this park. They were having an Earth Day celebration, Earth Day festival. And this lady had these big hoops, really big hoops. And she was taking the hoop, she was lifting it up off of her body and swinging it around and then jumping through it. And I was like, woo! So I parked illegally and ran onto the land of the park. And I said, you have to show me everything you know right now. And I bought a hoop, and then I went online and I discovered.
What year was that? What year was
this?
That?
Was 2005.
Okay.
I discovered that there was a whole world online of people who did this thing. Yeah. And I was floored. So I started practicing. I was practicing different maneuvers and different moves. I bought a bunch of instructional DVDs, particularly from Hoop Girl, Christabel Zamore. And because I had made those purchases, I also bought a bunch of hoops from her online. I was getting her newsletters. And I was super hungry for them. I was like, more. Oh my God, this is so amazing. And I like did a performance. We had this incredible anarchist artist group that would do these renegade performances under a bridge and illegally. They were great. And so that was my very first ever public hoop dance performance, but my first public and accessible and legal hoop dance performance was at my friend's gratitude festival. She had this gratitude festival and she said, you should come to my festival. And I said, I'm going to be a performer in your festival. I'm going to do hula hoop dance. And she was like, okay. And she had no idea what I was talking about.
Yeah, nobody did back then.
It was great. Anyway, I was getting these newsletters from Hoop Girl, and on one of the newsletters, in the little box at the bottom, she said, hey, Hoopers, I'm looking for someone who would be interested in helping me set up a teacher training in any one of these cities, and one of them was Miami. And as a South Florida resident, I was like, oh my God, pick me. Yes, I want this. What do I got to do? And you beat me to it. And that's how we met.
That's how we met.
Set up the very first ever
on the East Coast
Hoop Girl teacher training.
Yes.
And I came over to St. Pete and I met you and I took the course and and here we are.
History. Yeah. And all these years later. Well, it's been such an amazing progression too, because when the time came for Christabel to kind of phase out of the hooping world, start her breathwork company, move into a different place in her life, I remember, Hoola-Fit was just starting, and we sought out her blessing because she was both of our teachers, our mentors. You have a unicorn mug. Amazing.
Dun, 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 dun.
Good. I knew we had to have some sort of unicorn reference in our conversation today. But anyway, it was amazing. Yeah, I remember communicating with you before that teacher training, and you were like, I'm a Baum, you're a Baum, because at the time my name was Al Baum, you're Tanenbaum. So we connected over the Baumness of our last names before we ever actually met in person. And then, yeah, it was incredible. And I remember you went through, at the time, Hoop Girl had 3 different levels of teacher trainings. It was, beginner, and like master teacher trainer. Yeah. Yeah, you did all 3.
I did. I traveled out to San Francisco to Dance Ground Carriac, which is the studio where she held both level 2 and level 3. And it was in the level 2 training. So during that time, I was doing research in educational alternatives around North America. So I had left my job teaching history, and which I love history, and I love my kids. And they're doing great now. They're out in the world doing amazing things, honestly. I had left my job teaching high school history, and I was traveling to do the research that I thought I needed to do to start a school. Mm-hmm. And at that time, I was also checking out different grad programs that I wanted to apply to. And it was on the very first day of the level 2 Hoop Girl training at Dance Ground Carriac, and the level 2 curriculum is all about feelings and emotions, and by extension, personality. And I didn't exactly know that, but we were just getting into it on the very first day, and we were talking about how specific moves can generate states of being, qualities of our lives, like feelings and emotions. And I flip open my notebook and I scribble in like the top corner. Right now, I want to be in that master's program at Naropa. And that's when that was the moment that I made my choice, which grad program I was going to do. I knew I was going to grad school, and I didn't want to get a degree in management or educational leadership or like any of that boring stuff that I knew I was supposed to get if I was going to start a school. I wanted to get a degree that would actually serve me as a human being. And so it seemed very much like this Naropa program was it, but it wasn't until like the cosmic forces aligned serendipitously in the level 2 Hoop Girl teacher training, day 1, San Francisco.
Synchronicity
that I made my choice.
Yeah, that you're sitting in a hoop dance teacher training and you decide that that's what you're going to do. And then it must be really funny to reflect from this place that you're in now too, after what you've created with Florida Flow Fest and that whole evolution. So,
yeah, because I at some point I said, I don't want to start a school. I want to start a festival instead.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so amazing. And then just to kind of, go back a little bit in terms of that whole journey where you and I, we met, we connected. We were both teaching the Hoop Girl workout. Christabel phases out, moves to Bali with her blessing, because we didn't want to, that was big. We wanted to make sure that our program was authentic to us. We weren't copying anything that, we're respecting. We came up from the Hoop Girl program and respecting her program and her efforts, and she was our mentor. And so anyway, I really like to give credit where credit's due. But I wanted to work with you because, well, first of all, I just loved you from the minute I met you. And I, like I said, I one of my biggest teaching challenges during that time was I knew that flow transcendent state, that movement meditation state was where the magic of hooping lived for me. That was what was most transformational in my own journey, but I didn't know how to teach it to people. I didn't know how to guide people into that space. And you unlocked that for me as an instructor. And I was like, and then with your continued education, and your area of study, you did your entire thesis on the flow state. I was like, this is so awesome. She's an educator. I've got a lot of hands-on practical experience in the rooms, like teaching hoop fitness, to merge those 2 skills and create this program. Like I couldn't have done it without you. And I was so happy when you said yes, and we got to do that project. It was a lot of work and it was challenging at times to create the program, but I'm forever grateful.
Worth it.
Yeah,
Worth it.
definitely worth it.
Totally
Especially
worth
now
it.
when I think about how many instructors are out there teaching, and it all stemmed from that original creation back in 2012, you know?
Yep.
So thank you again for that.
You're welcome. It's super magical. And I honestly, I don't think too hard and long about it because I don't like to cry in public, but it does mean a lot to me to know how huge a support and inspiration and confidence booster and empowerment tool the Hoola-Fit program has become. And
Yeah.
I know that that was our intention. And it's really beautiful to see you breathe life into that intention continuously and expand the possibilities for people who never thought that they could do this. That's amazing,
Yeah.
Abby. It's awesome.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful to witness, because when we created this thing, I mean, yeah, that was the vision. We knew how life-changing flow arts, so specifically hoop dance as it relates to, you know, my journey, your journey too, has been, and to be able to share that and get it out to other people, and then to watch what's come from there, that whole trickle effect, to see, you know, like Heather is getting 50 hoopers on the beach every single morning at the Thomas. We've got people on college campuses now. We've got people who are leaving their full-time 9-to-5 jobs to do this for a living. And it's just like, I get chills thinking about it. And I know that we're still, like, it's been slow growth, and it's going to continue to be slow and steady probably. And that's cool. Like, you know, that's the way it's going. And it's a beautiful thing. So I want to also talk more about your vision for FlowFest, how you started FlowFest, because originally it was just in Florida, and
originally it was just a hooping event.
Yeah. So how did it start?
Just
how has it changed, and where is it going?
Okay, here we go.
Excuse me, one quick second. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. I actually, you know what?
Yeah, comment out as you need
to. I'm going to turn on a light. I'm going to add a little light. I'm going to add a little light, Abby. I'm going to add a little light.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Yeah, in the meantime, I am sorry for the interruption. I'm having some maintenance done on the house right now, so I'm talking to the guys working. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
Okay. Cool.
Okay, FlowFests. So
your baby.
Yeah. So I created it to do a couple of things. It's not exactly a baby because it's not like an independent entity that has a life of its own without my direct control, tyrannical control. I'm the dictator and the tyrant. But FlowFest was originally thought up to be just a hoop event, a place for hoopers to connect. And I had never run a festival before, but I had a lot of experience in the back end of major festivals prior to launching FlowFest. As a teenager, actually, I had been part of the tiny crew of 4 people who ran one of the largest international photography festivals in the world called Photo Fusion for a number of years. And then there's a giant music festival that happens here in Palm Beach County called Sunfest. It's music and art. And I decided that I didn't want to pay full price for tickets anymore in my early 20s. So I started volunteering, and I worked for 6 years in central inventory for Sunfest. All the booze and all the screws came from us for that entire festival. And that was a real education in event management, emergency protocols, just so much. It was awesome. And then in addition to that, I had been involved in running the National Poetry Slam for a number of years. So I had this work as a spoken word artist, but I was also an MC, a coach, and then I became volunteer coordinator for Poetry Slam Incorporated. So I would show up in a city the day before this 6-day poetry festival, and I'd have to figure out how to get to all of the venues within a half hour of their opening, and count out the door and count out the merch money, and then make sure all of the volunteers knew what they were doing. The entire event was volunteer run, so I had a lot of work to do, but it taught me a lot about what goes into orchestrating a big event. So I thought, okay, I'm going to do it. We're going to do it for the Hoopers, because I had been traveling. I went to Hoop Camp. I went to the Hoop Path retreat. I was so inspired by what I saw there, and I wanted to like take the entire experience and like pack it into a jar and then come home and open up the jar for my community so that they would be able to access the whole experience too. But it's not possible. So I thought, I'm spending all this money to take myself out here to these things. And yes, I'm benefiting from these experiences and traveling to learn from the teachers that I want to learn from. But if I paid a little bit more money, then I could just bring them here and then we could all learn from them. And I wouldn't be kind of tasked with trying to communicate the whole experience to my community in a way that they would be able to benefit, like really benefit. Because it's a totally different deal when you're in an experience than when you're reading about an experience, or then when you're, watching a video of an experience. Totally different. So that's where Florida Flow Fest came from. It was that intention. And then through that, a couple other intentions. I want to get flow artists paid. I want to see education in the arts valued. Being an educator, being a teacher is a very different skill set from being a performer.
Absolutely.
And oftentimes when I see people who are stepping up their skill level, stepping up their technique, and looking at what's next for them, they immediately go into the performer kind of pathway category. Nothing wrong with that. There's a lot of money to be made as a performer in the realm of circus arts. I want to see there be a lot of money to be made in the realm of education for flow arts and circus arts and hoop dancers. So there was that. I want to get flow artists paid. There was that goal. A couple friends of mine very strongly encouraged me to consider opening up to include other flow arts props. So I did that. And the first Florida Flow Fest happened in 2011 in Lake Worth, Florida. And it was awesome. It was really tiny, but it was 3 days long. We had workshops at this giant park called Bryant Park out on the Intercoastal. And then we also had workshops at a local dance studio that was about 10 blocks west of the park. And we had some amazing instructors the first year. I really lucked out, and I invested in having this experience happen for the community. So we had Hoopalicious the first year. We had Brecken Rivara the first year. Nick Gazzardo, Rainbow Michael Haynes, Rainbow Michael. Those were like the core featured headliners for Hoop, but we also had a couple of other Hoop teachers. Then we had a number of very well-known poi artists and double staffs and contact staff, and it was really awesome.
I'm just trying to remember. That was the year I taught, right? Or
no,
was it
you taught the next second year.
Okay, gotcha.
You taught the second year. So the second year you came and taught, and the second year Nick and Kit were there. That's why you were thinking, you were like,
Nick.
Yeah. No, the second year Nick and Kit came back. I can't remember. My brain is failing me. It was 2012. Who else was there? There were other people there.
There were a lot of people there.
Great. I feel like a jerk right now. Okay, but moving on. Anyway, second year happened, and it was awesome. And the second year, I hired my favorite band to like play the closing party for the event, which was my own personal dream come true. They're called Spam All-Stars, Afro-Cuban Funk and Jazz. Yes. And I remember jamming out with you to Spam All-Stars at the end of the second year, which was great. As the years went on, I started learning how to streamline the setup, streamline the work that goes into putting on a festival like this. And then I also learned that 2 days are way easier than 3 days to pull off. So the first few years were Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. It was expensive and it was hard. It was physically hard to do that. And so 1 year I ran an experiment and I did a Saturday, Sunday festival. And then I went to my vendors who had been with me for many years and I said, how'd you do? And they said, we made the same amount of profit that we've
Right.
made in 3 days. And I was like, sold. That's
Right.
it. I'm never doing this again.
Yeah.
But that made it so that I could easily take it to other cities.
That's
It's
awesome.
way
Yeah,
better
isn't it cool the
than
way
a
that you
event.
take your key learnings so that you can adapt and figure out what works and then
Yep.
replicate it in other places. When was the first out of state Flow Fest? When did that happen? 2013?
Texas Flow Fest in Austin, Texas in March of 2015.
Oh, 15. Okay.
Yeah. And
Cool.
actually, the 2015 year, we did Texas Flow Fest and Mountain Flow Fest in Asheville and Florida Flow Fest, and we were still working on the 3-day format. So I did run the first fests outside of Florida as 3-day events.
Yeah.
And then I learned that it doesn't have to be so hard. And so every year since then, they've been 2-day events. So now, it was Texas and Asheville, 2015. In 2016, I added Seattle, Northwest Flow Fest. In 2017, I added Chicago. So in 2016, I was on track to add Midwest Flow Fest. So that was supposed to happen. It didn't happen. It was originally scheduled to happen in Madison. It's the only Flow Fest event I've ever canceled. There were a lot of reasons why I canceled it. Again, learning lessons.
Yeah.
One of the biggest lessons in all of this is, surprisingly, bigger cities are way easier to work with than small cities. They have a framework. They understand a daytime arts festival, family friendly, no fences. They get it. They're way more common in big cities. It's way more frequent an event. Small cities gave me so much trouble. It was difficult to run it in Asheville. I only ran it there for 2 years, and then I never scheduled another one. Madison, I tried to do it, and it didn't work. And when I canceled it, in the process of canceling an event, first I notify my instructors who I am contracted with. And I say to them, hey, how do you want to handle this contract? I want to make good on it, but we're not doing the festival anymore. So you tell me what you think would be fair. And all of them said, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
And the first 2 people who said, don't worry about it, followed that up with, bring it to Chicago. We're ready for it. Cool. And I said, okay. So 2017, we added Chicago. And in 2019, we added San Diego. And this year we're adding New York City.
New York.
And it's my 40th birthday. So it's very exciting. So this will be the last one that I'm adding. Is this the United States or is this the United States?
Is that a real question for me?
Yeah. It's like this, right?
The geography, I don't know. Yes, it's like this. Florida.
It's like this. You can see the United States here. This is Florida. Yeah. Okay. So Florida, Austin, San Diego, Seattle, Chicago, New York.
Ooh,
we've got all the corners. Yeah, so I'm not adding anymore. That's it. Okay. Cool. But that's been the vision. Making flow arts accessible. So another goal that I had in all of this was, why not invite the general public to come play with us for free? Yeah. Why not?
Yeah.
I can think of a lot of reasons why not.
Why?
But I've mitigated those reasons. So there's no alcohol served at any Flow Fest event. We don't have any open fire on site at all, ever. Now, there are times where I will work with the city to have a permitted fire performance, but we never have an open fire circle on the park. Yeah. A lot of other flow events do. And because of this, they've got to minimize the risk. And they've also got to be very careful about who they let into the event. So a lot of those events are camping style retreats. And there's nothing wrong with that. I consider like my little festivals, my Flow Fest events, to be like the gateway to flow artists feeling comfortable at some of these other large events, like Fire Drums, for example. And I have the utmost respect for Flow Arts Institute and all of the work that they do. They run 7 of these every year. And that's That's impressive, to say the least. And they really are life-changing experiences. So if you're ever interested in coming to a flow arts event of any kind, you should just do it. Invest whatever it takes. For Flow Fests, our events are free. They're in the center of cities, probably a city not too far from you, and a city that you probably have some friends or family. So you can go and stay with them if you have to travel. We offer workshop passes.
Yeah.
So the way it works is, if you want to take some of the intermediate or advanced level workshops in any of the flow arts that are offered, you need to purchase a workshop pass. They look like this. They come off your wrist so that you can do other things in your life and not have this stupid paper, woven thing on your wrist. Because sometimes we do have fire spinning after parties, and I want people to be safe. It's silly to expect flow artists to have to spin fire with something that they can't remove from their body. That's just not safe. So anyway, yes, these are like workshop passes. Yeah. So they're $50 early bird for a whole weekend of workshops. It's very affordable. At the door, you can get them for $60 for the weekend or $40 for a single day.
And people can go to flowfest.com to get more information on this.
Actually, Flow Fests.
Yeah, Flow Fests. That's what I said.
Flowfests.com.
Yeah.
So, yep.
Okay. I'm going to switch gears a little bit. Now, because I have a couple more questions, and I want to be respectful of time and not go over an hour if possible. So why do you think, you mentioned something really important a minute ago about opening up your events for the community? Because I feel like for flow artists, we feel like this seems very commonplace. This is our lives. This is what we do. But for the vast majority, and I see this almost every weekend when I'm out in my own community at the Saturday morning market, at events like we had yesterday, Localtopia, which was a huge celebration of all things local.
How'd it go?
Businesses. Biggest day of sales ever in 12 years. I killed it yesterday. I was so happy. Yes.
High five through the screen. High five.
Yeah, high five through the screen. You know what? So this is actually a really good point, though, because lots of people are getting into our art form on a daily basis that have never been exposed to it before. Even though I've been in my community doing this for 12 plus years, new people started hooping yesterday. And when you talk about inviting members of the community out to experience what Flow Festivals are all about, you're introducing these art forms to people who have never seen, heard of, been exposed to it before. So my question is twofold. One, why is teaching flow arts important? Actually, I'll ask that first, and then I'm going to ask the follow-up question.
Okay. In the interest of time, to keep it brief, I'm sure everybody can remember an experience they've had with a terrible teacher. And I'm sure they can all also remember an experience that they've had trying to learn something on their own without instruction. Both of those experiences can be challenging for some and not for others. I know personally, if I have a terrible teacher, it makes me, it kind of creates this little, lights this competitive fire inside me, and I turn into maybe not the nicest person on the planet, but I go out and I get it done for myself. And it's a motivator, but oftentimes it's a turnoff for people. Similarly, if I'm trying to learn something without any instruction at all, oftentimes I'll start to feel discouraged or frustrated, and I'll put it down and I'll walk away. We all learn in different ways. We also tend to have our own style of being in the world, and this, in every aspect of life, from our fashion and our, color preferences to our appetites to our professions and roles that we play in social life. A lot of this comes from personality. So personality differences will also dictate in a large degree how people respond to instructional environments. So some people have the personality type that is, they are self-starters, and they would rather just work on their own and learn on their own. They don't want instruction. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that at all. And There are other people who absolutely will not attempt to do something on their own ever. They want to be guided step by step. They want their hand held. Nothing wrong with that either. The experience of being educated or educating oneself is a private affair. It's a private thing. It happens inside our bodies. It happens inside our bodies. We might show the effects of that outside of our bodies, but for each person, it's going to be a little different. Now, having said that, teaching is important, not just for the people who are naturally inclined to find a teacher of whatever it is that they want to learn. But the way that teachers are in the world is, in a sense, automatically giving people, empowering people, and inspiring people, giving them the power to choose for themselves if they want to learn something. That's just how teachers are in the world, you know? And if you go to a teacher to learn a new skill, especially one involving body movement and maybe a plastic circle that could legitimately hurt you or someone else or destroy your furniture, and I'm sure we've all been there. I know I've had lots of practice sessions where I've smacked myself in the nose so hard and my eyes start welling up and I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. But having a teacher can help mitigate some of those risks and create a safe environment for people to learn a thing.
Yeah.
It is a skill, and it's a valuable skill. So that's my answer for that question.
Yeah. I'll also, I'm curious if you've noticed this too, because for me, I certainly have, is that it kind of reminds me of when I talked to my husband about like the early days of skateboarding, when the guys were trying to like figure out tricks by seeing what Tony Hawk and all those guys were doing. And they'd run out and try and like dissect what they're seeing on these videos. But there was no Fuse TV. There were no YouTube tutorials with hooping. Yeah. In the time you and I have been in the space, and other flow arts too, there weren't guides, there weren't instructions. So like we were self-taught, and I think about the frustration and the time and energy trying to unlock these moves and tricks. And now I'm watching the progression. Like people are learning at such a rapid pace, and I think that's because there are more educators out in the world. Well, they're helping. It's not the single reason.
Yeah. It's one of the reasons. And also, Abby, we've been doing all this work. We've dumped a lot of information in the collective unconscious. It's way easier to access maneuvers and techniques like with no training than it ever has been before. It's easier now. Yeah, that's a thing.
Cool. Yeah.
You're welcome, people.
You're welcome for that collective unconscious unlocking.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. I also really want to talk about community building, because that is something that FlowFest does really well, and what you've done in your own community really well. And sometimes that can be people's biggest challenge is like, well, I don't have a flow community in my area. And my response is always, well, create one. How do we build community, and how do we get our art to more people in more places?
Okay. All right. Yeah. Build one. Don't be shy. Start online. You would be surprised. Okay. When I first came to the to the Hoop Girl teacher training, and I met you, the first person I met after you, I actually met you in email beforehand because we had a whole conversation about like borrowing hoops and place to stay and blah, blah, blah.
Dome and all that. Yeah.
But when I arrived, the first person that I met there was a young lady named Danielle. And I sat down next to her and I was like, hi, I'm Casandra. Where are you from? And she said, I live in Hypoluxo. And I went, that's a mile from my house. How have we never met? So again, start online. Put it out there. There are a ton of local Facebook groups for flow artists. So like find one, even if not in your city, in your state. I highly want to recommend, if you're in Florida, that you become a member of the Florida Fire Collective. Even if you don't spin fire, it's totally cool. I very rarely spin fire and they don't look down on me. So come play with us. There are also South Florida specific Facebook groups for flow arts. Come there. Tell us where you are. We'll come to you. Like, it's way easier to build community now than it ever has been before.
And people may be
thanks
watching
to social
this
media to a large
definitely
degree.
Outside of Florida, but they may be watching this even outside of the U.S. And so building community.
But that's the first. That's where I would say, like, that's where you start.
Yeah.
Start online and put it out there
Regionally for your if there's flow groups regionally, wherever you live.
The second thing that I will say is get out of your house.
Mm-hmm.
I have a much greater experience of the world when I'm hoop dancing outside and it's so beautiful. And of course, this is all like weather dependent, but find the events in your area that are hoop friendly. Mm-hmm. You know, some music festivals are not, some music venues are not, but bring your hoop, bring your toys, bring your flow props, be about it. If you're about it, be about it, and come outside. Come outside. That's where the people are. They're actually not all here on this computer, even though it's helpful to start there. Come outside, bring your props. People will come to you like moths to the flame of your light. They will come to you.
It is so true. I mean, again, I'm still on a bit of a high from yesterday's event. Just to give you a little more background, it was the 7th year of this particular festival, and you cannot be a vendor at this event unless you have a business based in the city where I live. So me, along with 500 other small businesses in my local community, got together yesterday and had a celebration of all things local. And this same event 4 years ago, I remember it rained the entire day, and it was still one of my best days of sales for that year. Yesterday, I broke a record overall. And it's not just about the sales. It's about the fact that when I looked around, I saw tons of people dancing with hoops to live music that many had never picked up a hoop before. And so being out, getting involved with your local community, aligning yourselves with events like that, even if you're not a vendor, you don't have to sell a single thing. But if you bring those armful of hoops, you go out, you dance, you do you to the live music, because every hooper loves dancing to live music.
That's true.
The best way to get it out there. And then the flow jams will kind of organically evolve from that place, from that drawing of people together in those types of environments.
Yep. And then the other thing that I'll say about this is there's a young man who has a business called Spread the Flow, and he is setting up flow jam chapters. He can give you the know-how of how to run a flow jam, and he's got it down. He's doing a great job. He's running. He started in Florida. He's a Florida kid. He's actually a Florida man. Mm-hmm. That's a whole other story. But contact Spread the Flow and see how they can help you build a flow jam.
Yeah.
That's the other piece of advice that I would say. So get online, get outside, and reach out for support.
Amazing. Well, Cass, I know you and I can talk forever, because not only are we super close friends, we also have a lot to talk about. And this is our favorite subject to talk about, flow arts. Yep. But I also want to, just leave a little bit of time just to ask you if there's anything else, whether we spoke about it today or not, that you just want to share, or a message you want to give to the community at large.
Yes. This is my message to the community at large. Okay. I do. There are a bunch of things that I want to say, Abby. Oh my God. All right. Okay. Your practice is important. Your practice is the most important thing that you've got when it comes to this entire realm, the culture, the scene, the experience of being engaged with flow arts. It all comes back to your practice, and may your practice be a guide to you and a safe space to you, and may you bloom in it, and whatever you find there, come and share it with us. That's the first thing I want to say. The second thing I want to say is I do believe that the flow state is the most important tool for emerging and evolving consciousness on the planet. And that play is the most fun way to get there. So even if you don't have a personal practice that is consistent, that you feel comfortable in calling a personal practice, please, whatever you do in your day, add some play. It's important for our evolution as a human species on the planet.
That just gave me chills. It's so simple. I love it.
No,
love
seriously. Okay.
Yeah.
And now I want to announce a very exciting project. So I mentioned that we're sticking with the, corners for Flow Fests, but what I didn't say is that we are launching a new project to expand to college campuses. Yay. We're bringing a mini Flow Fest to a college campus near you, and we're looking for instructors to come and teach the arts. We're setting these up to be free spaces for students to come pick up a prop, possibly for the first time, and fall in love with themselves. Yeah. So we will have all of the props. You don't even have to have a quiver or a stash of hoops to use for your class. We've got it. So if you go to flowfests.com/applications, you'll find all of the open applications for any Flow Fest event in any way that you want to participate are there. flowfests.com/applications. At the very bottom of that list, it says Flow Fests on Campus. Awesome. Instructor application. Click it, fill it out. When we've got a booking that's somewhere in your area, we're calling you. Okay, that's how it's going to work. And again, I'm committed to getting flow artists paid. I'm committed to education in the flow arts being valued. All right, it is a valuable skill, and it's not something that just comes naturally. So I'm also working to create some easily accessible pathways, frameworks, spaces online to support people in growing their skills as educators. And I know that this is something you've been passionate about, and you have just been working really hard to establish as well in your own right, Abby, and through Hoola-Fit and the online webinar style of teacher training. It's super important, and it helps. So I also want to put that little plug for Hoola-Fit in there, because it is important to get trained to teach. Yeah. There's stuff you might think you know and you don't know. I'm an educator. I'm going to tell you so. Yeah. Also, if you are at a college campus and you want us to come to you, come to me. Send me an email. Send it through the website. I'll tell you who to get in touch with in your school administration or in student affairs to book us. We are actively seeking bookings, and we're about exactly 2 weeks out right now from the official launch of Flow Fest on campus. We are going to be presenting at the Association for the Promotion of Campus Activities National Conference in Orlando in a few short weeks. So we're coming out, and we're bringing all our toys, and we're coming for you. So
I am so excited about that.
That's what I want to say.
Yeah, and kudos to you, Casandra, for doing that, because honestly, I mean, mental health is another subject that I'm extremely passionate about. And I think if we can get flow arts onto more college campuses, we can maybe prevent a lot of suffering, people that are still, your brain's not even fully developed when you're that age.
Exactly. And we're pouring on the alcohol and adding all the parties. And it's just not the most healthy way of being.
Right, and the stresses of school and just the pressure of daily life being at that age, I feel like people need an outlet, And flow arts is our chosen mechanism. And I love what you say about play and about how really this could elevate the overall consciousness and raise the vibration of our planet, because I do believe that as well. Yeah. And then just one more sidetrack, you just kind of triggered something else also about teaching specifically. It is true, you know, there is a lot that we need to learn when we step into the role of being an educator. And I just had a good reminder the other day with my CPR AED first aid training, which we re-up every couple of years. And you never know. I mean, just stuff like that. You want to be prepared in case of an emergency. We want to know how to have a flow to our classes, how to read our students, how to reach them in a way to ensure that they're understanding, because there are different types of learning styles. So we could geek out about the education side of it too. But yeah, that's why we have trainings, you know, it's so we can empower more educators and get the art form out to more people. At the end of the day, it changed our lives, and we wanted to change other people's lives too, because it is that powerful. And with that said, I also just one more open invitation for anybody who's watching this. Circle chats are intended to share inspirational stories from the flow arts community. Yes, it's primarily about hooping, but not just hooping. If you've got a great story to share, please get in touch. You can message me at hoolafitness@gmail.com to submit your story idea. I would love to hear from you. And I just want to say thank you so much, Casandra, for talking to me today, for sharing your wisdom with the community. You're amazing. You're a master when it comes to this whole flow thing. And I just love the hell out of you. So thank you for being here.
This is my heart, and it's exploding with love. Exploding with love. I love you, Abs. You are the best. Abu Dhabi Abby. There's nobody like you on the planet. And I can't wait until we can do this thing again in person. So yeah, that'll be fun. Maybe over a cup of kava.
Or a reggae festival. That's usually where we meet up.
I know.
Yeah.
That's true.
All right. Well, I love you. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Thank you to everybody who watched us live or is watching on the replay. Oh, before I forget, does anyone have questions?
Oh, yeah.
No, we do have a couple people tuning in, but no questions in the chat box. But as always, the replay is going to be on YouTube. You can post comments. We'll come back and reply to you later. So, all right, everybody. We're signing off for now. Bye.